I want to take it everywhere. The problem is because the film had released and it was everywhere, I couldn't do much. But I kept the print for a year. I took the film, I sent the film out everywhere. But filmmakers here are not aware about how the international market operates. And that becomes a big drawback because of which these films do not break out the way they should be breaking out. I think if a Gangs of Wasseypur can break out, then much before that, Subramaniapuram could have broken out, Parthiviran could have broken out, and even Kumar Raja's film, which had Aranyakandam, which I think was one of the finest films made in last
No doubt about
couple of years. That should have broken out, but it doesn't happen. And it doesn't happen because of lack of experience of the international scene or the market, and that's something that I acquired in a very long, roundabout way. That how, by making mistakes. But the problem here I feel is they continue making mistakes and not understanding the potential of their own film. Which I think, because Tamil cinema is more rooted, is more Indian, is more from the soil. Because most of the Hindi cinema is God knows set where. But you know, that makes it special, that makes it universal, because a foreign audience wants to watch a film the same way, wanting to know about where it is coming from, which comes from the film. And that exposure does not happen because films get released. And the first law of any kind of international festival is they want a premiere. Because a festival prides itself in discovering a filmmaker. The festival prides itself in discovering a film. A film that's released for them is already been seen. And filmmakers here, normally what happens, they're too scared to show the rough cut. There's too much fear of piracy. So they don't send out the print. And I've seen that the fear of piracy is always in those markets, the markets which have actually emerged from piracy. You see, international filmmakers, they don't have that fear of piracy, they'll send the films out. But I'm a product of piracy in the sense that my films got pirated is how I got seen for the first time. So I'm not afraid of piracy. And that fearlessness is what is required here. Because sharing the film at a raw stage, showing the film at a raw stage, when a lot of international scouts come, and I keep talking to them about Tamil cinema, and they come down here, the biggest problem is that nobody shows us the film. So, that way what happens, cinema can't be discovered from here. For it to be discovered from here, they need to see the film, and they need to take it there. Well, all those things they found very incredible in Wasseypur, like the way you shot music. I borrowed it from Subramaniapuram. Those slow motion shots. And those everything. So the thing is, they saw it first time in my film because they did not see Subramaniapuram. And that gap needs to be filled.
Yes, yes. But the point that you have made from the point of your writing is that you kind of said that to go global, you need to go more locally.
You have to be very local.
Can you explain a little more about that? You know, what is the process of localization, especially for a large audience, also urbanized?
Yeah, see, the thing is like, you know, when cinema is on an international platform, they want to see where it's come from, they want to see who the filmmaker is, and most often than not, the film is where the filmmaker comes from. And that's what creates an international space for that filmmaker. His experiences, what he sees, what he observes from life around him, and the more personal it becomes, more it goes out. And now, in today's time, it's so good that they love our music. There's a kind of an eclecticism of the music that they like, and they buy it with that.
Okay.
So, and we need to tell our own stories. The more we tell our own stories, the more we'll break out. And breaking out also is a slow process. It's a slow process. I was talking to Suresh and I was asking him what to talk about. So I spoke to him about a long time back about how we have been trying to crack the international market. The reason I was trying to crack the international market because I was being told consistently in Bollywood you don't have a local market. It was only a question of survival. No, I have to make my films. I cannot force myself to make a film I don't believe in. So I need to find enough audience to sustain me. I can cut down my budgets. I work with very small budgets, but I still need an audience. And so for that, every Indian distributor who handles overseas said that I don't have an audience overseas. What they essentially mean is your film does not have stars. And what they essentially mean is they only think the overseas audience is the diaspora audience. And I realize diaspora audience is nostalgic. Diaspora audience will come and watch the cinema they grew up on, which reminds them of India where they feel homesick. So diaspora audience is not going to help cinema grow. Maybe the second generation, third generation will, not the first generation. And so when I figured that out, I realized because when Black Friday went to the festival or Paanch also went out, why can't it release overseas? And actually until Yellow Boots, none of my films actually released overseas. They've been to all the festivals but they've never released overseas. And because of which there's a big lacuna, there's a big gap in terms of how do I recover my costs to make a film. So after which I started keeping all my overseas rights. And to create an audience when my films were banned, the maximum number of Black Friday DVDs sold in the market, I bought them myself. And I would carry them in a suitcase and put them in all the DVD shops and say, sell it for free. But spread it out. I would travel, but I would get, as a filmmaker, you get free tickets to the festival, whether you have money or don't have money. So, using that free ticket, taking a suitcase full of my own movies, trying to spread them out and distributing for free anybody who cared to watch it, so that people start to get slowly aware. You don't make much of a difference, but key people start to know your work. And you have to understand, out of 20 DVDs that you give out, only one will be watched. So that's also the ratio. And then what happened with Yellow Boots was, we made it ourselves. And the thing was, let's just give it out. Let's not talk about money and things and give it to distributors, sales. If somebody gives us any amount of money, we'll take it. If they don't, we'll still give the film. The idea is, let people be aware of you. Let people be aware that something like that is happening. And started doing that. That can only happen when you own the film. And that can only happen when the cost involved is very low. And that's how we started doing that. And that film went out. It spread out. It went everywhere. So automatically what happens is what we are doing next, people start keeping an eye out on. And then broke out, in the sense holding back the release. If you see, all my films are released post the festivals. We hold back the release. And after that we hold it for so long that it is seen everywhere. It travels as much as it can before it's released in India. And that's very important. So every film, like I have my fellow filmmaker colleague Vasan Bala, who's made Peddlers, which was in Cannes this year in Critics Week. He's standing there. And
Vasan Bala. Hi.
He's a Mumbai-born Tamilian who's grown up at Aurora.
Aurora Cinema Theatre.
So his film is made, and the idea is to exploit the film. Let the film go everywhere. And sometimes what happens in the process is, like with Peddlers by international sales has recovered its costs. So when the film comes out in India, it does not have a pressure or a burden of being extremely audience friendly. It can be a unique experience, which is a point of view of the filmmaker alone. And that can only happen when you reduce the burden of the monies invested in it. Or, as your budgets grow higher, you start expanding the audience base. And that's what we have been trying to do. Now it's become like a collective. A lot of filmmakers are making very interesting films and at extremely low cost. And using all these small films to spread out. So every festival this year has been one year where probably every festival we had a film from our company. And that is a very slow process and a tedious process and with a lot of patience, and the only thing is they need to be aware of you. A first time great film might be lost, but your third mediocre one might become great.
So it's a kind of a two-pronged thing you have said now. One is to get rooted, and two, it is also to be seen as an individual's vision, an individualistic vision. So must be a combination of these two. I'll tell you the problem with the first and then come to the second. When we say rooted, somehow there is a belief that you need to go back to the villages, go back to the rural India. Is there a fetish like that in the global audience?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so, because Rooted, I mean rooted can be in the city. Rooted, it's a, you know what happens, which like me and Vasan were talking, and we're talking about since Parathiviran and Subramaniapuram, a lot of films have started going to the village and they've been trying to make the same kind of film again and again. So what happens is that something that was unique has become all over. It's become a formula. And that's where it stops being unique. So you have, the more one gets away from the formula, and you will discover from within you, around you. You will not discover it by seeing it in the theatre, because the moment it's up there on screen and you follow that, it will become a trend. It will be part of a trend or a fad. It won't be unique. It stops being unique. So it has to come from within you. It has to come from around you. And there's a need to constantly reinvent, rediscover, which everybody has to do that. Everybody has to go through that exercise. And it's somewhere in the sense, one has to find within. And it can be extremely commercial film.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. It can be extremely commercial, audience friendly film. But there has to be some kind of a uniqueness to it. Like for example, I would say, a film like Ega has a lot of international midnight movie potential. But nobody exploited that. But it's a film that can actually release worldwide. Every country will celebrate it. But it's not being pushed there. And a midnight movie is like The Raid, like all those movies, the midnight movies in the festival have the biggest audience. And Ega is a film that has that potential, which has not been exploited, which I've been like saying for a long time that, you know, somebody has to push this movie. This will become the Kung Fu hustle of the year. This has the potential to do that.
So almost like a cult film.
Yeah, not just a cult film. It's a film that will, everybody will watch it. For various reasons they'll watch it. They'll watch it and they'll get it.
Yes.
The language is universal.
So how does a young writer know that this is a very individualistic streak that is coming through in my film when he or she is writing it?
I don't know that. I don't have a clue. But what I can say is you just know it. The moment I've seen one becomes aware of this is, but when you have a good idea, you'll just be excited. You won't be able to contain it. And for me, that's the only sign. The moment you are aware of it, in an outside way, and you are objective about it, and you start to intellectualize it, you've lost it.
You've lost it.
The excitement is just there. You won't be able to stop yourself. You'll try and tell all your friends, I've got this idea. And for me, that's a sign that you have hit upon a great idea.
So that means the level of infatuation should be more than the level of passion.
Infatuation, the wonder, because I feel like a lot of people tend to lose the wonder in the sense, that whole awe of something. Celebrating anything that you feel is good. That awe is very important to be alive, because writers are generally extremely impressionable people. A good writer or a good creator will be very impressionable. His opinion might change every 5 days.
Correct. Yeah.